Sorry about that. Welcome, welcome all the DeFi crypto and airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto. We almost rounded the horn there, went back into the intro. So got everybody's starting to trickle in. So I'm just gonna do a quick intro to our channel. Those of you that might be new. So if you haven't already, if you could find us on YouTube, give us a follow and a like. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps us grow the channel. We do this, purely out of pocket. We don't monetize at all. So anything you can do to help us grow, we greatly appreciate it. So with that, I do want to give a shout out to a couple of our brother channels. We have Discover Crypto, Blockchain Report. My co-host on Mondays and Tuesdays, Jeff. He specializes in airdrops. If you're interested in that. The Blockchain Basement, Drew, over at Discover Crypto, has a great show over there. Kind of giving just a little bit of TA, but mostly news. Very based news. Jake Call, who is on our Wednesday and Friday shows, where we do deep dives specifically on decentralized finance and how you can earn yield on your bags instead of just hodling, and ways that you can earn passive income. And then, of course, David, also Wednesdays and Fridays, he heads up DeFi University that just launched, and highly suggest that you check him out. And he's actually just launched and he's growing quickly. But if you could, on this episode and all episodes, and also in the description of our channel, we have all of our links to our Discords. If you want to join the community, it's free. Again, everything we do is free. If you want to join a community and start learning, and have a community to ask questions, if as you're starting to explore, DeFi, airdrops, crypto, whatever. Metrics Finance, where Jake that developed that, is a great DeFi app that you can use. If you want to check it out, I won't go into depth on it. We've done an episode and we're about to do another one because he's about to launch a whole new aspect of it. So basically, it's a way to track your DeFi portfolio specifically for liquidity pools. But he is about, excuse me, there we go. He's about to launch a new part of it that is going to allow you to track your lending and borrowing as well. Very excited about that, especially where we're at in the cycle. As I start taking profits out into stables and locking in my profits, I'm going to start utilizing more, lending and borrowing and looping to lever up, my liquidity so that I can, earn more. So I'm really excited to see that. And then, of course, David's DeFi University. Full disclosure, these are affiliate links. No money out of your pocket. They've just built in a little bit of money for us if you join using our links. But again, it's no money out of your pocket. It's just a little something that they give us for steering people their way. Both of these I personally use, so it's not something that we're just getting paid to shill. It's something that I actually very much enjoy using myself. So with that, let's get into this. So as always, I like to start out with DeFi Llama. Just kind of gives me an idea of what's going on with the markets. Blue line being total value locked, or TVL, in all of DeFi. So it gives you an idea if DeFi is building, if it's growing or if it's contracting. If it's contracting, it could be a signal of a bearish sentiment in the market. And then also the volume, the DEX volume, which is this magenta color, which just seems like that we're kind of trending sideways. So we're not expanding, we're not contracting. It's just chugging along. So not no red flags, no green flags, nothing like that. Don't know why my camera keeps going out of focus. Sorry about that. Probably because I'm waving my hand around. But regardless, there is money to be made in DeFi right now, and I have a couple of positions open. Black Hole. How is Black Hole doing? So, do you mean the asset or the platform? Would be my question, Victor. Ricky Romero, absolutely. Let's go, Keeta. I'm excited to see where Keeta goes this bull run. I've built me a nice bag, started out with $800, and I used DeFi to grow it out to, at one point, it was $8,000. I'm wanting to say I'm down to like, because of the, the price drop, I'm down into like the $4,000 range or something like that. But again, a lot of upside potential for Keeta. Um, oh, okay. The platform. Oh, let's take a look. We got some time. Black hole. Let's see how the protocol's doing. So it looks like it's starting to build out again. Let's look at the volume though. Again, DeFi Llama is such a great free tool. So you can see when it first launched, those of you that were around when we first started talking about it before it actually took off, we got in early. So we wrote it up and we've wrote it back down, as far as price. I've been stacking the whole time, and I'll continue to stack because black hole isn't necessarily something that I plan on round tripping my bag or anything like that. I'll definitely be DCAing out of it, but at this price point, I see it as a buying opportunity. Is it going to be the next aerodrome? I don't think so. Is it going to be the next Uniswap? Personally, don't think so. But is there money to be made? Absolutely, and that's what I'm here for. Is I'm not here to fall in love with the project. I'm all about hit it and quit it. I want to get in, make my money, get my nut and get out. So let's keep on moving. So next up, I always check rwa.xyz. For those of you that don't know, the first one, DeFi Llama, is how I check on the DeFi market. That's protocols that have liquidity pools, borrowing and lending, things like that. rwa.xyz is I always invest off of data. DeFi Llama gives me the data on DeFi. This gives me the data on real world asset tokenization. So, as you can see over the past 30 days, those of you that don't know, real world asset tokenization is, stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, private credit, public equity. Again, like I said, commodities, gold, silver, oil, things like that. U.S. Treasury debt, so bonds, all of these things that used to not be liquid. Now that they're being tokenized, they are a much more liquid than they historically have been. So you can see that we have just been going parabolic since the first of the year. It has just been up and to the right as far as the TVL or the liquidity that is being injected into the RWA market. You can scroll down and all kinds of analytics, whatever wets your whistle. You can see the top 10 by total value, or TVL, total value locked. You can sort by RWA count. So how many RWAs have been tokenized. How many funds, how many stocks, whatever it is. Apologize, don't know what exactly is going on with my camera with all the out of focus. And then you can look at all assets. So you can see here that BlackRock's Biddle Fund is by far the largest. Almost $2.7 billion. And that was done by Securitize, and that is a U.S. Treasury. So basically they just tokenized U.S. Treasuries, and that is by far the largest. And then you can see all the different chains that it's available on: Solana, Polygon, Optimism, Ethereum, Avalanche, Arbitrum, and Aptos. And one thing I want to point out to those of you that might be bullish on Avalanche, you hear a lot about Avalanche when it comes to gaming and some other aspects, but you don't hear a lot when it comes to tokenization. And as you can see, it is number 8 as far as total value right now. So, I mean, it is not, is number 5 with total value. And you can see in 30 days, it has near almost the largest amount of growth just behind Solana. Let's actually sort it real quick. Yeah. So you got Arbitrum that has in the past 30 days has grown 165%, Solana that has grown about 39%, and Avalanche that has grown 37%. So yet another use case for Avalanche, something, a project that I've been very bullish on for a long time, but always felt like it had a little too many irons in the fire. I really like projects that really focus in and specialize on a certain use case. One of my favorites is Plume. They are laser focused on DeFi and RWAs, and I can't wait to see what what they end up, where they end up going, with what they're building. All right, so let's take a look at the chat real quick before I jump into this. Why is Morpho so undervalued? TVL is at 7 billion and the market cap is at 600 million. Honestly, I think a lot of it is because you don't hear a lot of people chirping about it on social media. Unfortunately, a huge part of what drives price is still retail. We have a lot of institutional money that is flowing in to to crypto, DeFi, RWAs, all of that. However, the way that they buy doesn't impact the market as much as far as price. A lot of times they buy what's called, OTC or over the counter. So, amongst each other and not on exchanges. So it doesn't impact price as much. And I feel like that they're doing that to keep the prices down because they're wanting to stack as much as they can, as cheap as they can, because they understand, once this market takes off, it's going to be, what you got is what you got. It's, they really want to get in cheaply. So I that's what I think is going on with Morpho and a lot of other projects for that matter. Um, you can look, again, DeFi Llama, you can look on RWA.xyz, you can look on chain on, the explorers and things like that. And you can see what they're doing. And that's how I invest personally. I don't, for short term, maybe I might look at social media. And if things are, if I see something is being hyped a lot, then, a lot of times that signals for me that there's about to be a drawback. It's happening right now with XRP. Um, a lot of people think that I hate XRP. It's not the case. I am just trying to sound the alarm because it is at max hype. It is all you see when you're on social media is XRP, 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 even though very bearish news keeps coming out. As far as, founders selling, Swift just announced a partnership with Link and Linea where they're upgrading their system, so that whole narrative of XRP is going to replace Swift that disappeared overnight. Now there's, the XRP army, and what I feel, I have no evidence of it, but what I feel is an army of shillers that are trying to pump the price, and I think potentially getting paid to do it. They have switched their narrative. There's some, obscure, a third party that I've never heard of that they're talking about that is partnered with Swift, and they're also partnered with XRP, and somehow in a roundabout way that's going to make XRP the, backbone of the new Swift network. It's You really need to be careful, especially if you don't put in the work and do your own research, and you're watching social media to decide what to invest in because I honestly believe that people that are buying XRP right now, you might either make a 1 or a 2x, or very possibly you're going to be exit liquidity. Be very, very careful. Ricky Romero, bullish on AVAX. Absolutely, brother. The Deadwood, man, I'm so happy I've been stacking ETH, Arrow, Ondo, Plume, Pyth, and Link. Good choices. I like it. Oh, man. Sack Nasty's entered the chat. It's about to get X-rated up in here. Jay, what's up, brother? Let's see. Who else we got? Oh, my boy Jeff. Blockchain Report. How's it going, man? Let's see. All right. Yeah, and that's it. I'm just doing my math. When it comes to XRP, it's all based on actual facts. I appreciate you, Alexandra G. Always helping us out. Yeah, if you could, please. It goes a really long way. Like I said, we don't make a whole lot. We don't make any money so far off the channel. We try to do this, out of pocket. We want to be a channel of integrity and let you all know anything we talk about is 100% from research and data. It has nothing to do with what somebody paid us. So anything you hear here is 100% backed by, and I'll show you the data. I'll show you the receipts. So, all right, what do we got? What do we got? All right, that's it. So let's jump into this. So I've been wanting to do an update on Keeta for a while. And Keeta is one that we got into very, very early in our community. So, again, a little bit of self shill. Get in our Discord, links in the description. It's free to join, and because we are always sharing these really early gems. And Jeff, the blockchain report, is a big part of that. With airdrop farming, then you're usually, if you're doing airdrop farming, it's before the token generation event. It's before the mainnet goes live. It's very early on in the project, and that's why the partnership that me and Jeff have, with this channel, is so great, because he's able to find these early gems, that are very interesting, that we do the deep dives on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then we can get in early. You can then, get the airdrop and use that free airdrop to start a DeFi, portfolio. You can use it in a liquidity pool. You can use it for lending, whatever you want, and grow that, all free into a large, bag or a large holding of that asset. It's what I've done with Mamo. It's what I've done with Plume. It's what I've done with KTA. It's what I'm doing with Black. What else have I done that with? Aerodrome, I did it. Casper was another one I did. I really hope Casper does something. And currently I'm doing it with Plasma XPL. We just did a deep dive on that. And Avantis, a perpetuals dex on base that I'm trying to build a bag out on. And I actually have 3 longs. Actually, I'll just share that real quick. Nothing major, but I have 3 longs in, one on XPL, which is a 6x long. I'm down $37 right now. I'm always transparent here and on wins and losses. Avantis, I just opened. I'm $16 up, and I'm in an arrow long. Have been for a couple days now, and I'm $130 up on that. So a little bit of leverage, nothing too crazy, but I feel like a lot of these are bottomed out. I mean, just oversold, beat down, and hopefully October. I'm banking on October and hoping that these do something. So anyway, back to KTA. So there's some things that have been going on with KTA. First of all is their roadmap. They just launched, just put out. Let's actually go up here to it. All right, where are you at? You know what? We'll go to the bookmarks. Where are you at? Did they take it down? Don't tell me they took down the... Well, all right. Then what we'll do is we'll do this. Let me... There we go. All right, and also shout out to those that are watching on all the different on the different platforms, X, YouTube, and Pump.fun. If you could, go over there, check us out on Pump.fun and follow us. It's one of the few ways that we're making a little bit of money. Whenever anybody, not saying buy, that the meme token that we had to create the stream there, but if you so choose and you want to just like buy it, sell it, we get a little bit of money off of the fees, from people buying and selling. So again, not saying go buy it, but if you feel like it. So So the roadmap. Um, let's go through it. So basically, what they're doing is they're going to be launching their fiat anchors. And so that's going to be a feature allowing users to move fiat currency in and out of Keeta network with ease, enhancing accessibility for traditional financial integration. And that's interesting because they just put this out. So they've just released the outbound base anchor on Keeta network. And so you can see basically what this is anchors is Keeta's uh, version or what they feel is their upgrade from a smart contract. So you can now send Keeta USDC, URC, and CBBTC tokens bidirectionally, so both ways between base and Keeta network. See the post below for instructions on how to use the anchor on the Keeta wallet. So basically, you can use the Keeta wallet to send seamlessly both back and forth between base and the Keeta network. So very bullish on that. Next, and of course, they can do anchors for multiple things. That's just the first one that I saw. Decentralized exchange, very excited for this. So they plan to launch a high frequency decentralized exchange or DEX within Keeta's ecosystem, aiming to improve trading efficiency and decentralization. So potentially this could be the aerodrome of Keeta, depending on what model they use. I'll be interested to see some details as that narrative evolves. Keeta Pay offers non-custodial banking like user experience for mobile and web platforms, providing a seamless financial service without holding user funds. This is potentially David, that's on Wednesdays, that heads up DeFi University. He lives off of his DeFi earnings, his yield that he earns in DeFi. And he uses EtherFi and the card that EtherFi offers for banking. So he is 100% bankless. He is 100% in Web3, crypto. That's how he earns his living. That's how he spends his money. That's how he stores his money, all of it. And the Keeta card. Keeta plans to launch a debit card. A while back, Ty, he did a video where he bought a Coke using a Visa card. And so that was a bit of a teaser potentially for this Keeta card. So they're going to be launching a debit card linked to KUSD balance. That is a stable coin that they are launching. Enabled users to make purchases using their Keeta funds. Public repositories involves releasing Keeta's GitHub repositories and the network's audit results to promote transparency and community involvement. Community grants. It includes issuing grants to developers to support strategic development, fostering innovation within the ecosystem. So this is just going to be, basically liquidity to incentivize people to build on the Keeta network. It's very common. Token governance. Implements token unlock schedules, custom rules based on certificate attributes, determine token supply to manage governance activity. It's just voting, things like that. Launch a decentralized FX anchors. So that's foreign exchange. So currencies. This is interesting. We were talking about XRP, a bit ago in Swift. So launch decentralized FX anchors, increases support for liquidity pools to improve token trading, focusing on foreign exchange capabilities. So I'm speculating a bit here. So, take this with a grain of salt. But with Keeta being as it is, as fast as it is, it can do over 10 million transactions per second. It is a DAG, which is highly scalable and much more secure than a linear blockchain. And has built-in compliance. So KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering, as well as any regulation. any district regulation, so U.S. regulation, EU regulation, whatever, can be built in to the Keeta network to ensure compliance, and it's because it's modular, they can upgrade anytime new legislation comes out and is passed and signed into law. So Keeta has purposely built out their network for the financial sector, RWAs, DeFi, foreign exchange, all of these things, cross-border payments, potentially. Again, this is something that I see being a far superior product so far. Just like XRP, really have not seen anything big happen with it yet. But if they can do everything that they're advertising, and that's what it's looking like, is Keeta could be a huge player in foreign exchange, in the movement of liquidity, because it's so scalable and secure and compliant and fast, near instant finality. Then it reduces the need for deep liquidity, because if you are sending money and quicker than 1 second, the other end is getting that liquidity and the exchange is made and all of that is done, there isn't the need for the deep liquidity that is necessary now, because it takes sometimes days, if not weeks, for cross-border payments, with the legacy system, the Swift legacy system. They have things like called Nostro Vostro accounts. They have to have large amounts of liquidity just sitting around, as a medium for those exchanges and for those the sending and receiving of money. So this potentially is going to mitigate the need for that. And actually, you know what? I'm going to bring up really quick Miles. This is a little AI assistant that I use quite often. Hey, Miles, you there? Let's try this again. Hey, Miles, you there? All right, well, never mind. Miles is not there. All right. So, where were we? Well, I was going to ask him, because I asked him earlier about this if the instant finality or near instant finality of Keeta network, if it would mitigate or eliminate those things that I just mentioned with the Nostro Vostro accounts, and just the US dollars that need to be housed all around the world, for these cross-border payments. And the short answer was not entirely, but to a great extent, yes. But anyway, that's as deep as I'm willing to dive into that, because it's something that I know quite a bit about, but I need to do some more research as far as the potential for Keeta. What else we got? Identity anchor. Actually, let's do third-party anchors. So allow us to third-party anchors with interoperability. So it looks like that it would allow third parties to build basically dApps on the wallet, is the way I'm understanding this, and potentially giving increased interoperability cross-chain for the Keeta wallet. There's the identity anchor, which publishes the footprint anchor to enable users to identify themselves with KYC or KYB on the network, ensuring secure and verified identities. All right. They're going to be launching an Android SDK. Plans to release the Android SDK with documentation facilitating dApp development for the Android platform. External representatives enables community members and partners to host representatives promoting decentralized representation. No idea what that is. And expanded token support. Improved token anchors with support for additional assets such as BTC, ETH, and ERC20 token, broadening the network's asset compatibility. All right. So maybe their version of of wrapped Bitcoin and wrapped ETH and things like that is kind of what I'm getting from that. So let's see. Here's a partnership that I thought was interesting that happened not too recently, somewhat recently, September 24th. So they partnered with Agora. And those that aren't familiar with Agora, let's actually go to Agora. Hold on. Because I want everyone to understand the significance of this partnership. So, Agora has a stablecoin, AUSD. And Keeta is leveraging Agora, and it's backed 1-to-1. So my understanding is it's fully compliant, and its yield earns yield. So KUSD, Keeta's new stablecoin that they're going to be launching, is going to be launched in partnership with Agora. So I would assume that it will also, to be compliant, because what Keeta is building out is everything it does is going to need to be compliant with U.S. regulations and regulations around the globe. Anywhere that people are able to use their network, it's going to have to be compliant. So I would assume that KUSD, Keeta's stablecoin, is going to be backed 1-to-1, with a US dollar or US dollar equivalent. In this case, maybe AUSD. Much like Plume's stablecoin PUSD is backed by USDC, which is compliant. So, by association, if it's backed by something that's in compliance, as long as it stays in compliance, it's in compliance. Make sense? So, something that I found that was interesting with Agora is part of the team. Notice this Van Eck. If you're not familiar with who Van Eck is, it is an asset manager, a very large one. So let's see if we can pull up the team. See who their CEO and co-founder is? Nick. What's that last name? Van Eck. You're starting to see the lines that are connecting with all of this. So you have Keeta partnering with Agora, who is run by and co-founded by Nick Van Eck, who is part of the Van Eck family, who is one of the largest asset managers in the world. So let's actually look up Van Eck. All right, let's go to Goggle. And hold on real quick. ECK. There we go. ETF and mutual fund manager. Let's see. Come on, where's English? Damn it. Oh, here we go. All right. So, Van Eck, established in 1955. Let's see. Investment team career. That's not a whole lot. Actually, you know what? Let's just ask Grok real quick and see what VanEck, how much assets under management they have. How much AUM does Van Eck have? Let's see. Come on. Well, while it's thinking, let's go over here. So here's some details about the network card. So the initial pilot was in early 2025. Keeta partnered with Visa to do a test debit card connected directly to the Keeta network. In a demo video shared by Keeta's CEO, Ty, he used the card to buy a Coke with funds deducted instantly from his Keeta wallet address. This showcased real-time on-chain settlement at the point of sale, fully compliant with PCI DSS Level 1 standards. Recent update, October 2nd. So that was today. The card was officially added to Keeta's updated roadmap as a core feature for post-mainnet rollout. Community discussions on X highlight is a major step for user convenience, potentially because I mean, if you're going to be using Keeta Network in DeFi and RWAs and things like that, and then when they launch their decks and you're using it for DeFi to earn, you're going to want a way to use that liquidity. You're going to want a way to go out there and spend that yield in your day-to-day life. You're wanting to buy gas, buy groceries. If you're wanting to invest in real estate, whatever it is you're wanting to do with it, it's just numbers on a screen until you can use it at in real life, with a card, or being able to transfer it or send it, those sorts of things. So it's key that anybody that is going, any project that is going to be part of the new financial system, there's going to need to be an onboarding and offboarding, an off ramp and on ramp, for liquidity. If you want to add to or take away from what you have on chain. So very, very important. Let's see what else we got. So I was going through their product manual, and this is what kind of got me thinking what I was talking about before with their zero liquidity model. I really want to see if freaking I can get damn Miles to work. Hey Miles, you there? They must be doing an upgrade or something like that. Um, so what I was able to find out about this zero liquidity model is, well, here I'll just read a little bit of it because I want to make sure I get this right. It's very technical and I don't want to mess this up. So in traditional banking systems, banks settle transactions with each other frequently, and this is what I was talking about with cross-border payments, which requires significant liquidity reserves. This practice ties up capital and incurs costs and time. Keeta's zero liquidity model proposes a different method. Under this model, banks can transfer tokenized currency, so stable coins. This is why the Genius Act here in the US was so important, is without stablecoin legislation and those stablecoins being compliant and there being rules for those stablecoins, they cannot be used in the financial system. So that's why the first thing that this administration did was drafted stablecoin legislation because everything else is built on that. Looks like there's some stuff going on in the chat. Let me check this real quick before I go on. Oh, Sack Nasty. How can I get land near you, vet? I need your setup. Yeah, sorry, I was like out doing chores. It's the leaves are starting to fall, so I'm out there cutting firewood and stuff, getting ready for winter. I've lost track of time, so I didn't have a chance to get ready for the stream. Um, let's see. Oh, okay, game day. Appreciate that. Yeah, I just wasn't able to find it, but I was able to locate it. Athena 32. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think long term it makes top 100. I think Keeta will be much higher up than top 100 personally. That's just my personal opinion. Don't invest based off my opinion. Do your own research. But yeah, I'll definitely be round tripping part of my Keeta bag, and then I will also be building a further Keeta bag using DeFi. That's as deep as you can go. Sack nasty, damn you, man. All right. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I want to make sure that we use this deep dive to answer as many of your questions about Keeta and other projects as possible. Let's see. So, under this model, banks can transfer tokenized currency, again, stable coins, crypto, what Bitcoin, whatever. And that's what we were talking about before, where it was talking about the anchors for Bitcoin, ETH, and things like that. Is potentially, if there is a tokenized version of Bitcoin on Keeta's chain, then it could be used, to send and receive and things like that. Without immediate physical settlement. For example, Bank A can send tokens to Bank B, which then can then forward them to Bank C, and so on, all without settling each individual transaction. That's important because that takes time and resources. The chain of transfers can continue indefinitely within the network, with physical settlement only occurring when a bank decides to remove the currency or liquidity from the system. So basically, as long as the liquidity isn't being extracted, or the tokenized currency isn't being extracted from the network, somebody isn't withdrawing, it can move around within the network, which potentially eliminates a lot of those, what I was talking about before, accounts or large amounts of cash sitting in vaults all around the world, for those transactions, for those remittances and whatnot. So this is a game changer. This allows these the liquidity to exist on this network, and it only needs to be closed out, I guess is the best way to put it. And I'm sorry if I'm slaughtering this, but whenever somebody withdraws the liquidity, that is basically when the you know what, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. I don't want to slaughter this. I really want to make sure I get this right. Um, and I apologize. I had Miles all queued up. I actually had him to where he summarized it really nicely. So that's kind of why I'm unprepared for this part. The key to the system is the use of unique identifiers attached to each bank's minted currencies. These identifiers allow the network to track the origin of the movement of funds, ensuring that when settlement is eventually required, it can be carried out accurately. The network host provides these identifiers to banks upon approval, maintaining a clear record of token ownership and transfer history. This is all part of compliance, anti-money laundering. They need to know where the money went, where the money came from, who touched the money, all of those things to make sure that it's not, cartel money or laundered money, or, money, assets that are, part of, a frozen account or something like that. All right, benefits of efficiency. By deferring settlement and allowing multiple transfers without immediate reconciliation, banks can operate more efficiently within the network. The result is a reduction in the costs associated with maintaining high liquidity levels and frequent settlements. You know what? This is something that is pretty big and might require another episode. Well, here's something that might give you an idea of kind of how it all works. So say Citibank holds tokenized USD, so they hold USDC, and or they create a token, and it's referred to as Citibank USD. For each tokenized dollar, an equivalent dollar value is held in assets by Citibank. So, say that they back Citibank USD with USDC because it's backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar or US dollar equivalent. So now, then you have CFSB, say that they hold a tokenized USD referred to as CFSB USD for each tokenized dollar. All right, never mind. This is going to get too convoluted. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. What else can we cover here? All right, so VanEck, it looks like they have $132 billion of assets under management as of June 30th. So that could have changed, but that gives you an idea of the size of VanEck. And it looks like the son or the grandson or somebody in the VanEck family is the CEO of Agora. And again, this guy here, Nick VanEck. So, Nick has spent his career as a technology investor. Most recently, General Catalyst Partners, where he invested in enterprise software and blockchain companies from seed to growth stage. Prior to General Catalyst, Nick worked at JMI Equity, where he worked as the largest software take private in history. What the fuck is that? Yeah, I think they slaughtered that verbiage. But it looks like they have over 8 million total transfers, 12 billion in total volume, 100 plus businesses are signed on with them, and 55,000 plus AUSD, their stablecoin users. Let's take a look at their ecosystem. Okay, so they work with Aave, Aftermath, Anchorage, Avalanche, Balancer, all big names in DeFi. Binky, BingX, BitGo, BNB, Bluefin, Cetus, Clearpool, Copper, Digital Asset Custody, Curve Finance, that's Circle. What else we got? Drift, that's over on Sol. Yeah, right here. It's a DEX that's on Solana. Eigenlayer. So you can start to see the parallels, and this is the thing that I'm paying attention to when it comes to a lot of these projects is how they are interconnected. So if I see a project, no matter how cool the tech is, or how how much it's being talked about on social media, or how I don't care. I look at the fundamentals. I look at, is it being integrated into the network, and how deeply is it being integrated into the new financial system? When it comes to RWAs and DeFi, either it's going to be a cool kid and it's going to be integrated into the system, or it's not going to have connectivity to the system and it's going to be left out in the cold. So the more deeply integrated a project you're interested in, is in the new financial system. We're seeing it with Chainlink. It's the first one that comes to my mind. Swift is building with them. As far as interoperability, it is the go-to oracle. Ondo, is another one when it comes to tokenization. They're tokenizing the whole New York Stock Exchange. It's Plume. Plume is flying under the radar right now. It is becoming deeply integrated into RWAs. Not so much DeFi. I mean, it definitely has some DeFi plays, but I'm seeing it more on the RWA side than I am on the DEX side. Base and those plays, those are what I'm most bullish on when it comes to DEXs. When you look at volumes, I am trying to stay objective and not get too deep into base, But I just see that chain as being laser focused on DeFi and RWAs. There's almost nothing other than, of course, memes. Everybody has a meme. But other chains like Avalanche, very bullish on it, but they have a poker in the fire, for gaming. It looks like they're getting into RWAs now. It just, they're getting into, a lot of different things. And I feel like when a project lacks focus, it doesn't mean it's not going to do well, but it's not going to excel. I don't feel like, and this is just my feeling, that it's not going to stand the test of time when it comes to, a project, like Keeta that is laser focused on finance. And you can see that it is being purposely built out for finance. And the people that it's aligning with, the companies it's aligning with, are all big players. Google, one of the Google founders is one of the ones that is the major backer. I believe it was 20 million. You go back and watch. We have a couple of different deep dives on Keeta. I believe it was 20 million that he initially invested in Keeta. Let's see. To fund the project. And so if you have big players like this, they're going to ensure they have their finger on the pulse of the pain points and what it is that customers are going to want from a project like this. So they're going to ensure that it's built out properly. And if he's investing $20 million, I guarantee that he is sitting down at the table, when they're talking to their investors and, and advisors, I would be willing to bet he's part of the advisory board. I haven't looked, but let's take a look. Got two baby deer running around outside my window. Let's see if they got they don't. But I'd be willing to bet that he's an advisor and basically helping them navigate, partnerships and navigate how to build out to ensure that they are ticking all the boxes. KYC, AML, being modular, so they're fully upgradable without bringing the whole system down. They can upgrade aspects of it without having to bring the whole system down. And that's what's so important about that DAG architecture. Constellation DAG is another one that has that DAG architecture. And personally, I think that DAG architecture is what is going to set Keeta apart from their competition. And it's projects like this that contributed in part to why I sold my 40,000 XRP. Is no matter how I felt about XRP, no matter how bullish I thought I was, I had to put that aside and I had to focus on the facts, on the data. I had to remove my emotion, and I cannot stress this enough. I don't care, and I see it in Keeta too. Go into the freaking Discord. There is some people in there that are just as passionate about Keeta as the XRP army is about XRP. I'm not saying that, XRP is the only one. It is terrible. The tribalism in crypto is terrible. But that being said, you need to remove your emotion. You need to constantly seek narratives and information outside of an echo chamber. Don't just, subscribe to channels that parrot or, basically the bullish narratives that everybody in that community, parrots. Seek out contrary or contrasting information. People that are trying to pick your project apart. Watch their channel. Don't just believe what they say, but take note. Then go do your own research. Do not be lazy. Do your own. There's AI that can help you. Don't just trust AI though. AI can be wrong. But go do your research. Always try to find the bearish aspects of your project. It is the only way that you're going to stay balanced, and it's going to potentially, it's going to keep you from being somebody else's exit liquidity. You're going to notice things before all the other zealots that are in that ecosystem that think it's going to go to $10,000 or some ridiculous valuation. I saw the writing on the wall for XRP when Ripple came out with RLUSD, a stable coin. To me, that took away utility from XRP. If there's a stable coin that sole purpose is to move value, there isn't a need for XRP to be some large valuation. It's a gas token. There are some use cases, some small use cases that can't use RLUSD. But again, you now have Swift that partnered with Chainlink and Linea that are upgrading their system to use blockchain technology. With Chainlink, they are going to be able to access multi-chain liquidity, potentially Keeta being one of those with their stablecoin. So if Swift has instant access via Chainlink to endless liquidity on multiple chains, all of the stablecoin liquidity, all the USDC, USDT, RLUSD, all of these stablecoins, USDE, if it can access, if Swift can access, and all the tokenized assets, there is no need for a token, a single token, to have a high valuation to move value. There's stable coins right now. Sack Nasty. I can send Sack Nasty USDC out of my wallet almost instantly for free. There's a cross-border payment. If he could be halfway around the world and I can send it. There's no need for XRP. Institutions, if they want to send money, with what Swift is building out, they'll be able to send any stable coin or digital asset or tokenized asset anywhere in the world instantly. Cross-chain. That's, what Chainlink does. You need to be your project's worst critic. You need to always be looking for what's wrong with it. Don't just go out there and find people that just tell you the same things. I cannot stress this enough. I watch it day in and day out, and I try to get through to people. I'm not saying sell all of a project. You can keep a moon bag of whatever project, not just XRP, whatever. I still have a moon bag of Casper. I can find all kinds of things that I'm not bullish about on Casper anymore. I have not heard any great news about the Casper project in quite a while. I've sold off some of my Casper. I still have a very, very nice bag. If it does something epic, I'm going to do very well. But all those years that I was earning 15% APR, I've sold a bunch of that off to get into some of these new projects. Part of it was what I seeded my bag for Keeta. Avantis, I sold off $1,000 of Casper to start a bag of Avantis, AVNT. You need to constantly be reevaluating and reassessing your portfolio. So anyway, let's see what the chat has to say. Yeah, no, I sold my 40,000 XRP at $2, and I was buying between 30 cents and 50 cents. I made a nice profit. Could I have held on longer and sold it $3 or more? Absolutely, but I sold it like coming up on a year ago. Not quite a year, but you know what I mean. And since then, I've taken that liquidity and done a lot more than what than I would have done if I would have hodled XRP. I mean, all this, DeFi stuff that I've done since I started the channel was funded by all that profit I made off of XRP. So, it's grown this channel. It's grown my bags, and I'm sitting very pretty. If we get back to some of the all-time highs just this cycle, for some of the projects I'm holding, actually, you know what? I'll show you some of the projects I'm holding. So Aerodrome, is my largest holding. I have Aerolocks that I've been getting free airdrops. Syndicate, I got a free airdrop. Avantis, I got some. But yeah, love that. Plume, I know, you can see a lot of my holds are RWAs and DeFi. Ondo Finance. Price really hasn't done a whole lot of anything, but you can look RWA.xyz. Come down here to networks. Platforms. Right there, number 3, $1.7 billion of tokenized assets on Ondo. They are tokenizing the entire New York Stock Exchange. I mean, do you understand how much value that is? And that price hasn't moved yet? That is insane to me. But what is the daily volume for the New York Stock Exchange? So while Grok's thinking about that, so you got Securitize, and they're the ones, and the reason that they're the largest is that's that BlackRock's Biddle fund, and that's by far the largest, largest RWA that's been minted so far. And so, of course, that's going to, launch that in the first place. But again, you can see, this is, all the different platforms, tokenizing platforms, Centrifuge as another one, but that are tokenizing all these, different real world assets. So these are the things that I'm looking at when I am assessing my portfolio. I do not care about the price. Ultimately, yes, I do care about the price. I take that back. But just because the price isn't moving, I'm not going to allow a lack of discipline to get me to sell that, to chase something that's pumping. I am investing for my future. And, me and my lady, we have plans. I want to, expand the property, up here. There's a bunch of stuff I want to build. I have a property in Hawaii. I want to build a little vacation place there. I'm looking, I'd love to get a catamaran, so we can just sail around. I have a lot of things that I want to do, and I'm going to do it with DeFi, but long term is what I am focused on. I'm not looking for a flash in the pan. I want to be a part of the future financial system. I see Keeta as being part of that. You can see, Keeta at one point was way up here, but the price, has, got freaking destroyed there for a while. I didn't sell a single freaking token. I've been doing nothing but stack. But you can see, at one point we were at like $1.70, and then we crashed down at one point to like 40 cents. That's a massive crash. But again, I did not sell. The only time I sell tokens is if the fundamentals change. I do not care about the price. I'll ride something to zero if I see that they are building and that they are being built on, and they are, getting partnerships, and, liquidity or TVL is being injected. If it's growing, if it's expanding. Now, if it's contracting, if I see that there's liquidity being sucked out of it, and it's a shrinking ecosystem, I might need to reassess. So these are the things that I look at. If you want to be an emotional investor and sell when prices dump and buy when prices pump, I would like to personally thank you for being my liquidity. Because whenever the prices pump and you're buying, I'm going to be laddering out, and you're going to be my exit liquidity. and I'm not going to apologize for it because I was disciplined when these, when these prices were dumping. I was earning. I wasn't buying, but I was earning more, and I was holding. I wasn't selling. I'm going to be rewarded for my discipline potentially. Of course, I mean, Keeta or any other project could go to zero, but I personally don't see that. Obviously, because I hold it. So, oh, here we go. So, what else we got? Chainlink. Again, I've had this Chainlink for years now. It's partnered with Swift and many others. I don't see Chainlink going anywhere. I'll be round tripping part of this bag. Constellation DAG, working extensively with the U.S. Department of Defense, Project Iron Spider, with the U.S. Air Force and Space Force. Price hasn't done shit. But you know what? It's being used, it's being built on, and I'm going to be patient. Like I said, Casper, it's been sitting at this 1 cent mark forever. But again, I I do like Casper the project, and and I have high hopes for it. It's a long shot, to be honest. I love the project. I'm bullish on it, but I have not seen a whole lot from it. The CEO, who used to be the CTO, Michael Stour, I believe is how you pronounce his name, was just in Wyoming talking to the governor there. Was at the SALT conference, I believe is what it was called there, and they were one of the speakers. And so, I mean, they're still very active, but I just haven't heard any big news, any big partnerships, anyone launching on the network, things like that. Black Hole, I got a free airdrop of that. And so I've been building a bag of it. It's basically just a DEX on Avalanche that's built on the same model, the VE33 model, same as Aerodrome. I'm just basically, when it pumps, I'll be laddering out. I'm not in love with the project. I'm not going to round trip any of it. I don't know, maybe 10% or something. Mamo, an AI project on the base network. It is it basically invests your money for you. So you can deposit liquidity, and it utilizes Moonwell to for Coinbase wrapped Bitcoin, USDC, and Mamo, and they've been adding others. But you deposit, and it just uses those vaults to maximize the yield that you can earn, and then pays you yield, and it just auto compounds and grows. So it's kind of a fire and forget. I have a bunch of Mamo deposited on that, and just a little bit of Coinbase wrap Bitcoin, and just letting that grow. And then of course Plasma XPL. We just did a deep dive. If you're interested, on our channel, it's basically a stablecoin platform for multiple stablecoins. Super interesting project. I see it as potentially being a part of the financial, the future of finance. And so I'm taking a chance on it, just growing a small bag, seeing what I can make with it. And then Avantis, which is that perps dex, perpetuals dex on base. It's comparable to what's that one that launched on BNB that everyone's raving about? Aster. It's comparable to that. Not getting as much attention as Hyperliquid or Aster, but since it's on base, I personally am wanting to have a bit in there, just because I know the way Coinbase operates. As soon as that new Coinbase app goes live, the way Coinbase is integrating DeFi directly onto their platform, eliminating those barriers to entry for the masses. It's going to allow people to more easily invest in DeFi with just a couple of clicks, and not have to use confusing wallets, connect to dexes, and worry about exploits, and just a lot of the pitfalls that we deal with right now in DeFi. So that's why I'm so bullish on base and base projects, is simply because of base, Coinbase and the base app, and how basically on day one, from what they're saying, is all of these projects, Mamo, Avantis, Aerodrome, Morpho, Moonwell, Alien Base, potentially, and many others, day one will be available to to trade and use on these apps. So yeah, I mean, Coinbase won't lose. I mean, they have a seat at the table. They are in Washington D.C. Brian Armstrong, the bald guy that runs Coinbase, he is constantly in D.C. talking with lawmakers and ensuring that they're knowledgeable while they're drafting this legislation on crypto. And if you don't think that he's building relationships and glad handing and glad handing, slapping palms and taking people out for drinks and stuff like that, if you don't think that that's going on, then you don't understand politics. And he is definitely going to steer things in the favor of crypto overall and for Coinbase. And that's why you see a lot of the stuff, the legislation that's being drafted, is with stablecoin legislation. I'm sure he was one of the ones that helped them understand that the basis of all of crypto is stablecoins. It is the bridge of onboarding liquidity into DeFi and decentralized finance. Without stable coins, there is no DeFi. Without stable coins, there is no way to bridge liquidity from the real world, 2 or 1.0 to tokenized assets. So stocks and real estate, things like that. So I can't stress enough that me personally, just I'm laser focused on base, and it's not going to be the only winner. I'm just laser focused on that because there's only so many hours in the day, and to stay fully up to speed on these projects, to be able to talk to you all about them in a knowledgeable way, I can't spread myself thin. And so, I really try to focus as much as possible on DeFi and more specifically, base. And every once in a while, I'll branch out into other things if I find them very interesting, or I think you might find them very interesting. So let's see what else we got. Man, how long we been live? Let's take a look at this. Oh shit. Hour and 15 minutes. Man. Ricky, good question. Is this a good time to DCA into Avantis? Let's take a look. Personally, I would say that it would be a decent DCA point, and I'm not a chart guy at all. But looking at this chart, you can see the price all the way down here. I mean, this is a beat down freaking Avantis. I mean, at one point we were up to almost $2.70, and we're down to what, $1.12, $1.14 currently. So yeah. I actually, hold on real quick. Refresh this real quick. Yeah, $1.14. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's why I just opened this Avantis long, right before I went live. Is I see this, and and you can look back. You can see this was resistance here, all through here it was resistance. Back through this dip. It was, it looked like the. I mean, it's acted as support and resistance a couple of times early on. So, I mean, DCA absolutely. Like I said, I mean, I entered, $422 on Forex leverage. Again, I don't want to do too high a leverage because I want to ride this. I'm hoping that we get up October, and you can see, this arrow one, I'm doing really well. I'm up 61% on that. So, I got about $117 of profit there on $200 of collateral. Not doing too hot on the XPL. XPL, freaking, the longs I've done on XPL have just been beating me up. But a cool thing here, let's see. No. Damn it. All right. I was hoping that there was a KTA. Oh, but you can do a Hyperliquid on here. Bonk. Yeah, the cool thing about this Perps Dex is you can trade equities, so tokenized stocks. So again, all of these are tokenized on Ondo. So you got Tesla stock, you got Coinbase stock, Nvidia, Apple. So you can trade tokenized stocks on here. You can trade indices, so the QQQ and the SPY that everybody talks about. You can trade those on leverage. Of course, crypto, forex, so foreign exchange. So this one is a liquidity pool for swaps between USD and looks like the Japanese yen. The euro to USD. Just all these different currencies. Again, tokenized, and then you got commodities. XAU is gold, XAG is silver, and WTI is oil. I believe, like Texas oil, or something like that. But basically, you can see right now, probably because it's fall, people are longing the shit out of oil because as it gets colder, people need propane, for heating, they always need it for cooking and things like that. But as the temperature starts dropping, then people need heating oil, they need kerosene, they need propane. I personally use it here in the cabin. So these that's why I'm so bullish on DeFi and RWAs and a lot of these platforms. Is it is a way for us normal people that don't have millions of dollars. We now have tools that historically only people with millions of dollars and billions of dollars had access to, data to invest off of, you know, and being able to invest in things that traditionally you had to go through an intermediary, a broker. And you had to put in an order, and it took days or weeks for that order to go through before you were entered into that position. And then if you wanted to change that, you had to put an order in and pay a bunch of fees and stuff like that, and then wait until that order went through. Now 24/7, 365 with leverage. If you want to be a degen, you can trade all these things. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Let's see. Any more questions before I cut this off? I appreciate the 500 people we have watching live. I appreciate all of you. And if you could again, if you're watching on pump.fun, I appreciate you. On YouTube, if you could click over on our channel on YouTube and just hit the like button, if you're watching, and if you could give us a follow, it goes a really long way to help us grow this channel, and and allow us to bring on guests. Like I said, we have regular guests, David and Jake Call, that are very, very knowledgeable and take the time to come on the channel for free to teach you all advanced DeFi strategies and talk about the markets. Taylor and Jeff. Taylor is an estate lawyer that does wills and trusts and a formation of small businesses to mitigate taxes and things like that. He comes on to teach on Thursdays usually. He wasn't able to make it. That's why I'm doing the stream here. But how to protect your wealth. So after you make a bunch of money in crypto or in investing, how are you going to protect that? How are you going to mitigate the capital gains tax that you're going to have to pay on that, either short or long term? These are the things that you need to think about. TradFi. We have TradFi Jeff, Taylor's business partner, who talks about the markets, comes on Thursdays. Of course, and then of course, David on Fridays. We have airdrops. I talk about, DeFi entry level. I bring it down and dumb it down so people like myself that are old or maybe not as tech savvy can actually understand what the hell DeFi is and how the hell you can get into it and start making some money without getting destroyed. Because that's what I had to do. Is because everybody that was teaching DeFi was so high level that the barrier to entry was just too vast. They wanted people to buy their system, spend thousands and thousands of dollars to pay them to teach them. And so I started this channel so that you could learn the basics for free. And then, of course, if you want to take it to the next level, that's why I brought on, our partner, DeFi University, David. If you go into the, on our channel, if you just go here to more and go to the links, you can go to David's DeFi University. It's only $97 a month. And you have access to his daily live calls, and where you can talk directly to him and other people in the community. There's chats, there's courses, that you can go through. Bunch of free content too, if you want to go check it out. But if you want to up your game, once you've learned the basics and you're ready to go to the next level, it's the cheapest and the most quality, DeFi university or DeFi program that I've found. And I'm personally going through it to up my game. And then, of course, Metrics Finance. If you want, a discount on Metrics Finance, go ahead and use our link, and you'll get a discount. And then potentially, we might be launching a product here soon where I'm going to package all of this together to give you a little bit steeper of a discount. So, anyway, I think that's all I got for you. If nobody has any questions, I'm going to go and finish my chores. And until next time, Veteran Crypto out.